You are listening to the 4th and 40 podcast presented by Dorm Room Sports.
Extra bright, I want y'all to see this. Turn up the lights in here, baby. You know what I need, want you to see everything. Want you to see all of the lights. Fast cars, shooting stars, all of the lights, all of the lights.
Welcome back to the 4th and 40 podcast presented by Dorm Room Sports. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in every week, and we ask that if you're not already, please go ahead and give us a follow on TikTok and Twitter at 4th and 40 Pod. We also ask that you please go ahead and subscribe on your preferred listening platform, and please give us a review as well. Something that we have been doing and will be bringing back again this week is the listener questions. If you have something you would like to hear on the show or a question you would like to ask, please go ahead and shoot us an email at drshailmarypodcast@gmail.com. The link for that email will also be in the description. Now let's get on with the show. I'm back at host, doing my job again. We've had a little bit of a change in the crew, in the staffing. Luke will no longer be with us at this moment. We had nothing, no bad blood against Luke. He was struggling to find his voice, lost a little bit of interest, and we decided to go our separate ways. There's not a ton there. Anyone else want to add their comments?
I would definitely like to add on to that. I think the podcast is better off for it. We know Luke is a known quitter, so I'm happy to see he's gone.
I'm just very excited to see the comedy podcast that Luke's going to start. I think we should set the over-under at 2.5 episodes and 0.5 viewers.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't even advertise for our show, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does on his own.
Wish him all the best.
I wish him the best. He'll probably be in and out here. I'm sure. I think we have a listener question from him today. We're all still friends with Luke. No bad blood there. But let's get on with it. We have two new people that we have brought onto the show. One that will be talking more on the podcast, and one that's going to do more of like a marketing role and a producer role. Jake will be the one that will be talking on the podcast more. How are we doing, Jake?
I'm doing good. I'm real happy to be joining you guys. Poor Luke, first of all. I think I need to throw that out there. The comments were funny, though. But I'm really excited to join you guys and start talking football.
And what about David? How are we doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I just want to thank you guys for letting me join. Shout out to Dorm Room Sports. And like you mentioned, I won't be doing as much talking on the podcast and giving my shitty takes like the other guys. But I'm excited to be here.
Sounds good. Well, Rug, you want to go ahead and segue us into this hell segment?
Well, I'm very excited to, as you all remember in episode 3, we gave Zach a trivia quiz. Zach bombed it. It was very easy. Everyone agreed it was very easy after the show.
Not easy.
So I decided that in order for Zach to truly be respected as a host, he needs to get, and the viewers agree because we ran a poll, and they said that Zach needs to get at least an 8 out of 10. So with that, without further ado, this
I'm
quiz,
taking the under.
It's very easy.
Not a snowball's chance in hell that he's getting 8 questions right here.
It's very easy. Zach also knows about the quiz this time, so he's had ample opportunity to prepare for it. I don't know if he has.
All right, no, let me stop you right there. I want to give you made that sound like I know the questions. I have zero clue what the questions are.
Would we tell you the questions?
Zero clue what the topics are on. This is like I've had 10 years of schooling, and now I have a test on it at the end. So
they're basic football trivia questions.
Well, Zach was too busy watching Bundesliga soccer and golf to.
Dude, sports are back. Sports are back.
No, sports are not back. Activities are
yes,
back.
They
Sports
are.
Sports
I'm
are on
here
the way.
Currently watching Rory McIlroy, Dustin Johnson play golf. All right, sports are back.
All right, well, that's great. I don't want to hear any excuses then. But anyway, Zach also tried to claim that he got many more questions right than he did. So we're gonna have a very simple scoring system. If Zach gets a question right, it's 1 point. If I ask a part question, like name 3 players and blah blah blah, he gets 1 or 2 players, he gets half a point. If he gets a hint and gets an answer, it's no point. Doesn't count. Should know the answer. Basic questions.
No
like
hints?
Last time, we gave you a hint. His first name is Mike, and you said Mike Shanahan. Doesn't count. Perfect example. You don't get a point for that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to it. So, question 1. Name 3 players on the Redskins' current offensive line.
The Sheriff, Morgan Moses, and
Come on. Don't Google it. Don't Google it.
just
You're going to give
drafted
us
one.
Sheriff's first name while you're at it?
Brandon Sheriff.
All right, good. Come on, one more.
The one Mekhi Becton.
No.
Oh no, not Mekhi.
No.
Wait, McCoy, he's on the Jets. No, wrong.
No,
wrong.
yeah,
you get half a point. It's a joke.
Half a point. That's 2/3.
I'll give you a hint. He played on LSU. We drafted him in the 4th round.
Yeah, LSU left tackle, disciplinary issues, blah blah blah. Ron Rivera's gonna straighten
just because
him
you
out.
said Mekhi Becton, you're lucky you get half a point. That's a fucking joke.
I think that should be a point deduction.
What's his name?
His name is Sadiq Charles. But how about Chase Rouillet? How about Wes Schweitzer? How about other stars in your offensive line for your favorite team?
Wes Martin, Ross Pierschbacher, the God.
Oh, Wes Martin.
All right, now Mark's traveling into.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I might not have known who Wes Schweitzer was before I put this together, but that's another topic for another day. All right, so that's half a point for Zach. That was probably the easiest question. So that's pretty
horrendous
pathetic.
start for Zach. It's looking bad already.
Mekhi Becton. Oh my God. All right. There were 4 quarterbacks drafted in the first round in 2004. Name the 3 that have enjoyed a lot of NFL success.
In 2004?
There's a famous draft. Famous quarterbacks. You know all these guys are.
It's a very iconic draft.
It's very clear.
Tom Brady. Is it the Tom Brady?
No, wrong. You're done. It's Big Ben.
How does the buzzer sound, guys?
Very good.
Okay, there we go.
Tom Brady was not drafted in 2004. He was also drafted in this.
Don't give him the question yet. Let's tell him the teams that they played for. The Chargers, the Giants, and the Steelers.
Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. I said the 1st round, so I don't know what made you think that
I thought you were just talking about it.
All right, well, you know the teams now. Can you say them now?
I don't know who they are. Phillip Rivers?
Yes, that's one.
Phillip Rivers. Well, who was the other team? Giants, Eli Manning.
And the Steelers.
And Big Ben.
There it is. There you go. I mean, you don't get any points for that, but at least you knew.
Yeah, we'll give you a try. I tried my best.
What year was Drew Brees drafted in?
That's not the question.
I'm asking you, Rug.
That's not the question. So you got half a point so far.
Oh, we're deferring. I'm asking you a simple question, just like this. What year was Drew Brees drafted in?
It's not the question. We're moving on.
Okay, well, I think the viewers saw my point right there by just asking a simple question.
The viewers just saw you say Tom Brady. He was a 6th-round pick and not drafted in 2004. Drafted in the 1st round. So, all right, question 3. Zach so far is half a point.
Well, Zach has to get every question right to remain as host now.
Name the quarterback besides Joe Montana who has a Super Bowl victory with the 49ers.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, my God.
Oh, come on.
This is so easy.
Like I want to...
He's a lefty.
John Elway?
Dude.
Oh, my God. John Elway's not even a lefty.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Steve Young, everybody.
For whoever you guessed, John Elway is not a lefty.
John Elway is a lefty.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
No, he's not. Oh my
I promise
God!
you he's not.
All right, so Zach is now is 0.5 for 3, 2 wrong answers and 1 partial credit.
He's already failed his test.
We'll bump it down to 6. We could bump the score down to 6. I think that's fair.
Well, let's see where he ends up first, because I think that might be generous. All right, let's go to the next one. Name 3 teams that Randy Moss played on.
Give me one. Give me one.
Two of these are gimmies.
The Patriots, the Vikings.
There you go.
Oh,
and
Come on.
One more.
Come on.
Some would say if he played for this team today, he'd be running a little Spider 2Y banana.
Oh, the Raiders.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll give him half a point for that, I think.
Yep, half a point. So he's up to a point.
This is like pulling teeth, guys.
What other teams have
He played for the Titans, And he played for the Niners. He played in the Super Bowl in 20.
Fuck,
Super
I was
Bowl
going to say the
47.
Niners. I was going to say the
Well,
Niners.
that's too bad. So sad. So you're up to a point.
But I thought Niners. Jerry Rice played on the Niners, so I didn't.
Do the Niners and Titans
Good job.
even count? He played for like even. I don't know.
I mean, you gotta be flexible here. That's who we're working with. Gotta give him as many options as possible. So Zach so far is a 1 out of 4. So
I have a sound for when he gets these right. I didn't think I was gonna have to use it, but it's there.
It's there.
It's good to know. Good to know. Yeah. So he gets 1 full point for any question. You guys will hear the sound. I can't promise you'll hear it. All right. Next question. Name the one quarterback taken ahead of Aaron Rodgers in the draft in 2005.
Oh, this is easy. I just saw.
You know who this guy is. He's well known. We've talked about him recently.
Alex Smith.
All right, good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Woo! Right. We'll give him a full point, even though I kind of told him who it was. So we'll do 2 out of 5.
No, you didn't.
No, he got that one on his own. He got that one.
That one.
I led him in the right direction. We'll give him 2 out of 5. All right, here's another easy one. The Redskins question: who did the Redskins trade for Clinton Portis?
No, there's no way he knows that one. That's before like 2012.
It's one of the biggest trades in
corner.
Champ Bailey.
Yep.
Oh, yes, sir.
We'll give him a half point because Hall of Fame corner is a bit of a big hit.
Oh, let's make this interesting. Give him a full point. Let's make it interesting.
All right, we'll give him a full. The way the sound played. So Zach now has a
Was it
3.
It's a 3 out of 6.
Yeah.
He's on a roll now. He's got 2 in a row now. He's on a roll. He's got 3 points. I don't think he's gonna get this one though. How many Super Bowls did Dan Marino win?
3.
Nope.
Nope.
That'd be a 0 for Dan Marino. So now we're at a 3.
Iconic best quarterback to never win a Super Bowl.
Now we're at a 3 out of 7 for Zach. Can't believe he didn't get that one. All right, here's another easy one. Dave's going to have a field day with this one. What coach did Jerry Jones fire after winning multiple Super Bowls with the Cowboys in the early 90s?
In the Cowboys 90s question, like what makes you think in your right mind that I have
It's the
anything?
dynasty, Zach.
This is a pretty big event in NFL history.
Huge story. A very well-known coach. You've seen this guy on TV many times.
Coached Miami. Talks on Fox.
5, 4,
Oh my God.
Bradshaw, please.
3,
Not
2,
terrible.
1. You're
I'm trying
wrong.
to think of the Fox
Be Jimmy Johnson. That's no point there. 3 out of 8.
Gotta love Jerry Jones.
Yep. Love the old bastard.
Question 9 is another layup question because one of these is obvious. Name the 2 Steelers quarterbacks who have multiple Super Bowl victories.
Ben Roethlisberger and
Oh my God.
I actually just said the other one.
You've seen this guy on TV as
Those
well.
names have been mentioned throughout this
Terry
this
Bradshaw.
episode so far.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is. That's a 4 out of 9 for Zach. All right, so that means that if Zach gets this question and the bonus question, Zach can get a 6 out of 10, like Dave said. I think what we'll do is 6 out of 10.
It's a passing
6 out of
grade.
10. We're gonna let Zach pass and stay host, but we'll keep shitting on him. We'll give him another quiz next week. So if Zach can get to a 6 out of 10, we'll call it improvement over the 4 out of 10 last time. All right, question 10. What year did Joe Theismann have his horrible leg injury?
No way, no shot.
It was 20 years to the date of Alex Smith's 1998.
I mean,
That's not even close.
Wait a second.
What did he say?
Wait, was it the
He said
20-year
20 years of
anniversary,
the
Alex?
day.
Wasn't it 20 years?
no.
What was it to the
No.
day of Alex Smith?
Well, considering
It wasn't the year I was born, I'll tell you that. It was not 1990. It was 1985. I don't know. I honestly, that was a little bit of a hard question, but you were so wrong that it's still pathetic.
No, but wait, hold up. No.
I mean, you weren't even
What
in the
day
right
was
decade, so
Was it 30 years to the day of Alex Smith's injury?
I believe it was, yeah.
All right. Here we got one bonus question. So you have a 4 out of 10 right now. It's not looking good for you, but it's all right. Name the shittiest host in podcast history.
Luke Shankle.
There it is. There you go. There it is, Zach. Right.
Poor guy.
Luke Shankle, 10 years host, lasted one episode, probably the shortest in podcast history. So I think that's a valid question. So Zach, will give you a 5 out of 10 since that was a bonus question. And that means the quiz is coming back next week. So
I think it has to come back every week until Zach at least gets 8 out of 10.
Yep.
Back to the shitty host question. Luke was such a shitty host that some may speculate that's the reason why he quit.
That's definitely valid.
It's a possibility.
I mean, it's no coincidence the episode he takes over as host, he's gone.
Always fun, Zach. Always fun.
Right, well, now that hell segment's over with random questions, where I asked Rugg one simple question about Drew Brees, he could not answer the question. I mean, now we see why it's not just easy to just take random stats, just throw them in there and answer questions. Rugg obviously dodged a question. He watches a lot of Trump videos, and he did exactly what Trump does when he gets asked a hard question. He just dodges, ducks, and weaves. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the usual 4 downs segment, and we're going to start with Mark today.
Yeah, for my 4 downs topic, I wanted to talk about the state of the Los Angeles Rams. They're currently building a new stadium, which they need $500 million of new funding. They haven't paid a couple players, Clay Matthews and Todd Gurley, their money bonuses, that they're guaranteed money. And I wonder what's going on there. If Stan Kroenke's having some money problems. I heard he was one of the richest owners in the NFL. I just think it's a little concerning. What do you think, Jake? What do you have for your 4 downs topic?
All right, so for my situation, for 4 downs, I'm going to talk about Baker Mayfield and the Browns. Everyone knew Baker Mayfield made his rookie debut 3 years ago. He led Cleveland to the first win in 19 games, broke Peyton Manning's and Russell Wilson's rookie year touchdown record, first on the scene, had a lot to prove. There's now nobody left in the Browns organization that was in the front office that drafted him. That he is on his 4th head coach in only 3 years, and suddenly is poised with all this pressure going into his 3rd season, in which he has a lot to prove. He's one of the best supporting casts in football, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. I think it's a boom or bust year, if there's ever been one. So
before I go to my 4 downs, I'd like to just respond to what Zach had to say about me to go into this segment. I think it was pretty pathetic. He decided to fail his quiz and then decided to turn it over on me. I think it's pretty embarrassing if you ask me. Just needs to take personal responsibility and do his best to get the quiz right for the next episode. All right, so to my segment. James Harrison claimed this week that Mike Tomlin handed him an envelope in 2010 after a hit on the Cleveland Browns' Mohamed Massaquoi. Folks, you should go and watch that hit because he lit that dude up. And it is a type of hit that if it happened today, he'd probably get suspended. Bartez Burfict had a hit half as bad, and he was suspended for the entire season. And James Harrison went and said, if I had knew they was going to fine me $75,000, I would have tried to kill him. And then the Steelers owners said, I am very certain nothing like this ever happened. I have no idea why James would make a comment like this, but there is simply no basis for believing anything like this. Then Sean Payton went on 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore, and he said, that'll be something that's tucked away or under the rug at Park Avenue. So I think the moral of the story is, his comments were interesting, but I don't think you'll see any investigation. There won't be much that comes out of it.
So, got some college football news here for you. Talia Tagovailoa is coming to the Big Ten East. He announced on Twitter this week that he will be transferring to UMD. I think this has gathered a good amount of hype throughout the week, and I just think some people should slow down. Talia, he wasn't highly touted coming out of high school. He was the number 180 overall prospect, and he transferred from Alabama to get away from a competition that he clearly was not going to win. So he's going to his brother's former OC, and pending seeing if he's going to be able to play this year or not, because the NCAA wants to make its money. He would have a competition with former QB 1-star Lance Legrand, and I'd be interested to see how that's going to play out.
So ever since we gave out our all-convict team, the NFL seems that they haven't been able to stop adding to that team. This last week, we've had 4 different arrests. Well, 3 on different cases, 2 related. And I mean, I just don't know what's going on. I wanted to go ahead and ask our own crime-stopping enforcer, Mark Ayton, the security guard. Any talk in the crime-stopping community about what they think, what we can do to prevent this from keep happening? I mean, this is just a bad situation, and I want the Crime Stoppers to tell me
I
what to do.
mean, if anything, I'm just upset that our convict team was released before all this happened, because Quentin Dunbar and DeAndre Baker, just Hall of Fame caliber convict team material. I mean, they just want to go to a party, pull guns on people. DeAndre Baker was actually telling Quentin Dunbar to shoot somebody in the face. Very interesting. I don't know why you have to rob somebody when you're a millionaire. Definitely interesting behavior. And my Cody Latimer of the Washington Redskins, my prize free agent wide receiver, decides to get pulled over on a gun charge, also on an assault charge and menacing. So he's looking at some jail time. I just got to get him out of the locker. He's just got to get out of the locker room. I mean, that's just piss poor behavior.
Well, I mean, if you want my take on things, I think it's just quite obvious they saw our TikTok and they want to be a part of the squad. I mean, you see a list of all-stars like that, you gotta get your rep up, get out there, do some things, get on the team.
I think they want a second edition.
There's definitely a chance. Definitely a chance. Cody Latimer was definitely able to see that TikTok being in the DC area, and that we did get over 30,000 views on that TikTok. Definitely could have decided that he wanted to get some recognition for his name. I don't know.
I just want to say too that Mark's credentials are just really good. Mark once caught a squirrel out of place at his job and posted a Snapchat story for us all to see, and he once gave someone a parking ticket. So I think we should take him very seriously.
It was a raccoon, first of all.
Oh, even better.
No, not just that. Dolores was out of her room past 10 o'clock at night, and Mark had to take her back. Don't forget that. All right, so Jake and David both happen to be Eagles fans. Now, this matches up very well for me, Mark, and Dave, who are Redskins and Cowboys fans. Kind of completes the NFC East a little bit. I mean, we'll leave the bottom feeder of the New York Giants out of it at the moment. So, I mean, we don't really need much on them. But we wanted to go ahead and give Jake and David a little bit of a chance to talk about how they see the upcoming season going and what they thought about their draft. Go ahead, Jake, David.
In regards to the draft, which I guess we'll touch on first, with the exception of one major incident, I thought the draft went really well. I thought they filled a lot of holes in their roster and really loaded up for this upcoming season. The Jalen Reagor pick in the first round was criticized a little bit. I personally like the pick the more and more I look at it. It sucks because everyone in Philadelphia wanted CeeDee Lamb, who went to Dallas at 17, which I have not stopped hearing about from Dave. So if that could stop, that'd be great. Which sucks, but it's what it is. With Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, and Michael Pittman, all going in the next 12 picks, I like the Reagor pick even more. If we had waited for the second round for a receiver to fall to us, they wouldn't have gotten the guy as high on their board. The more and more film I've watched from the guy, I think he's a talented player. I'm going to leave round 2 alone for a second because I don't want to address that yet. Rounds 3 and 4, I think the Eagles added 2 great defensive players. Devon Wallace out of Colorado is a really, really athletic linebacker. Everyone knew that they were going to take an athletic outside backer that can play in space. That's where they got it. He will fit the 4-2 that we run very, very well. He'll play in a lot of space. I don't think he'll start right away, but I think he'll finish the season very, very strong. He's a guy who has not played a whole lot of football and played outside the box a lot, covered in space. Very, very good football player. He'll play pretty well in special teams. My favorite pick of the draft, 4th round, Kavon Wallace. I think he'll be a fantastic player. I think he'll finish the season strong as well, and will compete for Malcolm Jenkins' role right away. Player out of Clemson, plays really good football, good instincts, plays the box well. Pro Football Focus had them as their top-rated cover safety last year. Really, really a phenomenal player. In the rest of the draft, I won't go into every single pick as much as I'd love to. They traded a 5th for Godwin. I think this was a pretty good move. It's basically Deshaun Jackson's insurance. I think people that look at it as anything else are reading too far into it. Outside of that, they added a few players that will compete for the role of their hybrid offensive lineman that's going to play a whole bunch of different spots. They added a few other wide receivers that can play in space, add speed. We were lacking so heavily at speed last year, and I think this will help a lot. Personally, I think it was a solid draft. Out to the second round, I hear a lot of Eagles fans trying to justify the Jalen Hurts pick, and I personally can't do it. I think with the close ties that the Eagles have to the Colts organization, and several people being in the Colts organization right now that used to be in the Eagles organization, that they were scared by the Andrew Luck situation. And I think that is the biggest driving force to the Eagles taking Jalen Hurts in the second round.
I personally have a lot of similar feelings that Jake has. I love Kevon Wallace. I actually really like Jalen Reagor. I would have loved the pick and thought it was a steal if it was just a few picks later. But like Jake said, with Ayuk and Jefferson going still in the first round, I don't think that would have been an option to trade back. I am one of the Philly fans that Jake talks about and has justified the second round Hurts pick. I, being a fan of Taysom Hill and that packages they have there, and especially being a fan of Foles and everything he did, I think it's something that really will help the team. And even to give Dave some credit here, your team's only as good as your backup quarterback.
Oh, God.
And I don't agree with him much, and we can argue about the Cowboys in a minute. But I really do think that was if it was in the third. Those are the kind of picks that I personally in the draft love to see. If it was in the third round, I would have had no issue with it. The second, and just the fact that we have to hear about CeeDee Lamb for the next year from Dave is really what leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. But I was overall pretty happy with the draft.
Oh, if he's as good as I think he's going to be, it's going to be a lot longer than a year, David. A lot longer than a year.
It's all right. When we find out that CeeDee Lamb was just a product of Jalen Hurts, we'll be fine.
Wow.
I'd like to actually add on to what you guys said about Jalen Hurts. David, you said you've talked yourself into. I know you talked yourself into this. You were probably talked yourself into being a supporter of the Jalen Hurts pick. Obviously, like I said, I do kind of stand behind it still. Your team's only as good as your backup quarterback. I think he wasn't the best option for a backup quarterback on the board, and that's who you guys took in the second round. I think Jake Eason.
And this is one of the rare times that, as an Eagles fan, I'm going to sit here and agree with Dave right here. It kills me to say that. I'm not going to lie. But I personally think, like I said, with connections that Howie Roseman has to the Colts organization and the people that he is friends with over there, he was scared off by the Andrew Luck situation. And the way he talked Doug Peterson into justifying a pick of a backup quarterback in the second round was making it Jalen Hurts and talking about, hey, you're one of the most creative coaches in football. Look what they're doing in New Orleans with Taysom Hill. What if I bring in a guy like that? And that's how the pick got sold to both sides. That's personally what I think. What actually happened is yet to be determined, obviously, but that's what makes the most sense to me.
That's a really interesting point. I personally agree with David. I love the Jalen Hurts pick for the Eagles. I think the Eagles have one of the 5 best drafts in football. Jalen Reagor is a great fit for them. The fact that they added a lot of speed is important, but I think the biggest concern with them, how do you feel about their defense? I know they brought in Javon Hargrave this offseason, Darius Slay, Nickel Roby Coleman, but are you worried that with losing Malcolm Jenkins and with Avonte Maddox being a bit vulnerable at their secondary could have some problems and that maybe they should have addressed it a little bit more in the draft?
Well, I'm always worried about the Eagles' defense personally.
At all times, trust me. I think the defense did get better, if I have to quantify it like that. I think it's going to be an open competition for that Malcolm Jenkins role, and the defense will look slightly different. But I think with the money they invested in the defensive line being deeper and deeper and hopefully staying healthy, I hope to God that they stay more healthy than last year. It can only get better. I think the reason we won the Super Bowl a few years ago was because of the D-line play. Jim Schwartz's system is essentially, I'm going to rush 4 at you, try and stop me. And it is most successful when he has a deep D-line. I loved the Darius Slay move. I think it's the first number 1 corner we've had in Philly in a long, long time. And I think that will prove to be more of a storyline than Malcolm Jenkins' departure as the season goes on.
I agree.
Us being Cowboys and Eagles fans, we're probably not going to talk about the Redskins too much because they suck. I wanted to ask the question, how do you think going in, because we're going to be talking about a lot, being that the Cowboys and Eagles are going to play twice this year, how do you think the Eagles are going to approach playing Dallas this year? Seeing that they have what seem to be 3 stud receivers, Zeke's still in that backfield, they still have a top 5 O-line. I just want to know the defensive approach for Philly when they come to that game, or what you would do if you had Philly's defense.
You mean now that we don't have to wait for Jason Garrett to blow it?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
100%.
I mean, the Cowboys go into the season as was giving Dak the best supporting cast in all of football, and I don't think it's relatively close either. It's going to be very difficult, and as we've talked about personally, I have Dallas winning the division this year, and like I say, it pains me to say that, but again, nobody can win the NFC East back-to-back years. Apparently, that's not allowed. But it kills me. I have the Cowboys going anywhere from winning around 11, 12 games this year, and the Eagles winning about 10. I think it's going to be tough. I think we'll split the series, but defensively, our defensive line is going to have to beat you guys. That's what it's going to come down to. They're going to have to get after Dak Prescott, get in his face. Fletcher Cox is going to have to come up huge in those games, or we're not going to be able to match up.
Across the board, the Eagles have a winning record. We know Dallas isn't going to beat them.
I think it'll be the most interesting to see where they line up Darius Slay. What receiver are they going to put him on Amari the entire game, or are they going to put him on whoever has the hot hand? He plays both inside and out, so I don't personally know who he's going to line up on. But I think it might vary throughout the game.
Personally, with Slay's experience in the slot, I think that's where Dallas is going to want to find most of their mismatches this year is in the slot. So I think that's where you guys might end up playing them due to the fact that CD might be there. And you guys had success in that second game against Amari and Michael Gallup on the outside. So I feel like that could be an approach that you guys take with Slay.
Like Jake said,
I agree
if we can get the D-line to get there, and especially with the game in Philly, I think that'll be a big difference. If we can get Slay to cover the slot and just get any help on the outside. I think the real issue the Eagles might see when they play the Cowboys is the fact that this year, the Week 16 game is going to be in Dallas. And if the season comes down to that, it's going to look a little bleak.
I say if it's close, I'll take the Eagles because the bottom line is when shit hits the fan, the Cowboys crumble and the Eagles usually don't crumble. They have better coach, better GM, better organizational structure. And if it's close at the end of the season, I'll take the Eagles. But if Dallas uses their talent excess and uses Mike McCarthy's first year to propel themselves and get a big lead early by beating up on the bottom feeders like Washington, the NFC East, and I think they'll run away with the division.
As big a Cowboys fan I am, I really hate to admit it, but Rug's right. Dallas does like to crumble in those close situations. Hopefully the Mike McCarthy regime can change that. Hopefully enough talent has been added to where that gets overweighed, and hopefully that whole stigma of crumbling under pressure ends this year, and we can finally get back to an NFC Championship or a Super Bowl after a 2-3 decade drought.
I think we'll see really quickly this season how good of a coach Mike McCarthy is. Was it the situation that it was his success, the situation he had in Green Bay, or was it him being a hell of a coach? I think we'll find that out very, very quickly this season.
Do we think Eagles are taking Dallas out for the NFC East this year?
I have Dallas.
I mean, I have Dallas too.
I
Dallas
personally
too
have them
talented.
having very close. I think I have them very close right now. I think Dallas has too much talent this year. And if they can use it successfully, I think we'll be a wild card and they'll win the division.
Personally, I think this is going to be a prove-it year for Wentz. I think we saw a few years ago, before his injury against the Rams in the Super Bowl year, he was having an MVP-type season. I think we see that again this year. I think he proves that he's more talented than Dak, and I think this is the year where the Eagles where Wentz personally takes that step, and they win 11 games to Dallas's 10.
We wanted to give them a chance to give a different take on the Eagles this year. We've all been kind of hating on them during the podcast lately, and I wanted to get it from an Eagles fan perspective. So with that being said, we promised that we were going to talk about the Wonderlic test, and we were all going to take the Wonderlic test and discuss our scores. But it just turned out that we all got low 30 scores. And wait, who got the 35? Someone got a 35 in here.
I got a 35.
Yeah, Jake got a 35. The rest of us got low 30s. I was hoping Mark got a real score of an 11, but he just can't refuse cheating.
I do want to point out we didn't get a screenshot from Mark, so
We
there
didn't
is
get a screenshot from Dave or Zach either.
That's true.
Take a different test too. So before his head gets too big with the highest score, we do have to put an asterisk.
So it's just there's some things to point out.
I offered to take it over and over again to prove my score on different sites, and nobody sent me anything. So I'm sticking by my score as of right now.
I think we're all in agreement that we got solid scores. I think the NFL players who get like a 5 or a 10 just say, fuck this shit, I don't care. Because these questions, everyone's capable of answering those questions. They probably I forget who it was. Some player got like a 3. And if you do that, you could literally just put random answers and get at least
Frank Gore got a
8 or
3.
9. Frank Gore, yeah, Frank
I do,
Gore said,
however-
"Fuck
The only
this."
way you
I
get
do,
that
however,
low
wanna
of a
point
score
out-
is if you guess on every question. There's no way.
No, that's not even
That-
true. If you guess on every question, you should get at least 8 or 9 because like 5 answer choices each.
I just don't know how you get that many
I
wrong.
do want to point out that Ryan Fitzpatrick got a 49 on that test. And just to answer 50, even though I think those are pretty easy questions, to answer for like all questions, like be able to read them, like get through them and put an accurate answer for all of them is like unbelievable to me. And I guess that shows why he went to Harvard. But,
I mean, the guy
well.
went to Harvard. The guy
And he
did
is
go
a
to
legend.
Harvard. He is a Harvard grad. Let's not put it past him here. But I think me and Jake were talking about Tua's score, and I think he was a little more worried about it at the time than I am, especially after taking the test. I could see how Tua was like, I'm going to be a top 10 pick. Fuck this. I could put whatever I want down, and I'm not going to take this test seriously. And he probably said, click next, click next, click next, click next. Because after taking the test, it's if you're actually trying, and someone like Tua who reads at like college SEC level defenses, and I talked about before, he didn't have that much command at the line, but it's still like you still have to be able to read a defense. Being able to do that, I would imagine he would at least be able to get a 20, at least if he tried.
Well,
Yeah, I agree.
I'm personally a really big Tua fan. That just worried me a little bit. I'm of the personal thought that if I'm going to draft a quarterback in the top 10, if I'm going to draft a quarterback that high, I don't know if it's coach's mentality or whatever. I need you to try it, whatever you do, give it your full effort. I get it. Tests like that are stupid. And I think we should quantify this by saying we took an online version of this test, not like an actual there's a company that sends these tests out to different groups like the NFL. Both my parents work in HR, and like they give these tests to people like for recruiting. Like they're actual like sealed tests, not just necessarily like the things we took online. But if I'm gonna draft a quarterback in the top 5, especially, I need to know like, especially with like the personality it takes to play quarterback in the NFL, you're going to give your all in whatever you do at all times, and like be that leader and like lead by example. So maybe I'm reading too far into it, like from a coach's mentality, but that's just where I stand.
It's an interesting point. I think the thing about Tua, though, is I think those questions aren't a good measure of his biggest problem with holding onto the ball. Those questions, his cognitive ability to get rid of the ball, those quick decision-making that quarterbacks make. I don't think may have a factor, but I see what you're saying, where you want to see your quarterback always lead by example and always give it 110% in everything he does. And if that's why Tua struggled on the tests and because he didn't give 110%, that could be a little bit concerning.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. And it is noting that it takes a 2.0 high school GPA to get into Alabama. So just throw that out there.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it takes. I can only imagine what it takes when you're a top 5 recruit, too.
That's a good point when you're the number 1 player in your class.
Write your name and you're in.
Yeah, they have a lot of tutors and
Tutors my ass. No, hold on. Tutors my ass. They have people who do their work for them.
well, yeah,
I don't want to hear
that's what
tutors.
That's what I was hinting at. That you picked up on that.
Well, Dave did score the lowest on the Wonderlic, so.
Yeah, well, you probably got a 15 and didn't send the screenshot.
Well, I did send a screenshot for my first one. I just didn't for the second one.
2 + 2 = security guard.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to something that we haven't talked about a lot, and that's obviously been in the news every day. I think we're going to go ahead and give a very different take and different perspectives. I want to ask questions that I haven't heard been asked before, and it's just going to be talk about the coronavirus and the impact on the upcoming season. I mean, it's inevitable to talk about it. Basically depends if we play or not. I think my view is that the NFL has a lot better control on this than basically every other sport right now, because baseball's trying to get back as soon as possible. NBA is trying to get back as soon as possible. NFL can wait a couple months. They're going to figure it out. I think the NFL is in the best situation. I think the most interesting situation going on right now is the college football situation with the NCAA and what's going to happen. I'll open it up to the rest of the guys to talk first, but then I want to ask a couple questions to see what they have to think about them.
Actually, you said something that intrigued me, Zach. You said the NFL and football in general is in a better situation. I would kind of like to say that they're more in the same boat, just due to the simple fact that football requires those couple months leading up to the season are so much more important than the couple months leading up to any other sport. I feel like the install, the the getting guys like together, because it's also been such like how football has so many like so much bigger teams that just getting everyone comfortable with each other, like I said, the install, the game plans, getting everyone to know each other. I just feel like those factors weigh in a lot leading up to the season. And if we start getting closer to the season and things still aren't opened up, then a lot of these like rookies that are coming in, guys that are on new teams,
First year head coaches.
First year head coaches, those guys are going to struggle a lot, I feel like. And I don't feel like that's talked about enough.
I agree, but I'm talking more about from the perspective. I understand training camp has to happen. I understand all that. The players got to be together, but I'm talking being able to control it, kind of being able. The NFL is going to be able to basically almost isolate their players away from other people, keep them together, and once everyone gets tested and cleared, like they're together, they're going to be together. I don't know how the housing is going to work, what's going to work.
Wait, but you said tested and cleared like it's a one-time thing. Tested is twice a week.
Yes, but. One question that I really wanted to get to is you start talking about these college campuses, and Dave, you play football. You understand this. It's you in at these big schools, 30,000 people, and you're communicating with all of them. And how this thing spreads, it's going to be really interesting in college to see what happens when an Auburn player gets the coronavirus when they're playing. What are they going to do? What's going to happen?
They're not going to play. They're going to be quarantined.
I think it's simple.
It's very simple. I think you're trying. I disagree with what you're saying that football's in a different spot. I think every sport's in the same spot. And I'd like to take the opportunity to read some of the things that have come out in Major League Baseball's proposal, because these are going to apply to every athlete. When it comes to before I do that though, when it comes to college football, the reason they're in a tougher spot, because like Zach said, campus is like a bubble in a way. So if one campus has a hot spot, that's going to be a problem. Certain regions of the country are going to be in tougher spot than others. The campuses, in a lot of cases, a lot of these big schools are working closely with state governments, even closer than the NFL, which is a private entity. So you're going to see a lot of, California already is saying we're shutting our schools down, but the South is saying we're playing football. And I think if I'm a recruit that's in California, I'm transferring. If I'm at UCLA, Cal, and there's a lot of other states in that area, the West Coast, like Washington, or maybe even like a college up in New York, like at Rutgers in New Jersey. I think there's a lot of where you are going to college is going to be a huge problem if there's certain colleges that make different decisions about the fall.
I guess I'm just kind of saying, like, what happens when you play? If so, in college, they play a team, right? And then all of a sudden, players get tested, and you're in your conference, so you have these certain teams. What happens when a player on Auburn tests positive after a game last week? What that team now, does that team have to not play? Because it's going to be a whole team.
You have to be able to test everybody on every team.
Well, I'll take it a step further. What if in the NFL? What if it's the Super Bowl? Or what's that college football? What if Clemson's about to play Ohio State in the national championship game? Trevor Lawrence gets a positive test. He doesn't have a symptom in sight, because it's been said at least 50% of people who get coronavirus don't show symptoms. He's got no symptoms, and after a whole season of hard work, he's got to sit out and miss that game. And I understand it, but that's going to cause a lot of problems, and it's a long way from Michael Jordan's flu game. Just crazy how different it is, even though I understand why.
The way it spreads, it's not just going to be Trevor Lawrence that tests positive if he tests positive, especially in a college football locker room. It's just like the locker room, like you're sharing everything. Like you don't share soap and stuff. You don't, but you're in close proximity in those locker rooms. They're not like I'm at the D1 facility. I'm sure it's different than D3. But I'm sure the locker room's really fucking clean and stuff. But it's not. You're in close proximity. You're eating together. It's not just going to be Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be multiple players on the team. So what happened? Like it's going to be so interesting. And I think the NCAA knows they probably shouldn't play, at least in the fall. But because of all the stuff, the variables that college has to go with. But I don't think the NCAA is going to be able to say anything. I think this could be my hot take is I think this could be the falling apart of the NCAA.
Well, one thing we haven't even mentioned is the money aspect. A lot of these universities count on the revenue from football for their universities to run.
And they're losing money as it is.
Are we saying all this assuming...
I think the falling apart of the NCAA.
We're saying a lot of this assuming people are going to be on campus. I think we're going to see more and more and more in the next few months that if there is football, it's only going to be the football team on campus. Or it's only going to be fall sports on campus. Because I think increasingly, like the chances each day we look at it, I think there's less and less like the chance that like any of us go back to school in the fall, like for in-person classes.
Yeah,
I think personally,
I don't.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good. You're good.
I think personally, if I had to give my take, I think football's played at a a conference by conference based schedule, and then they go from there. I think you're only going to play within your conference within your region. I think the real conversation where it gets real interesting are the states like California that are trying their best to not allow their teams to play, what those athletic directors and what those conferences are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
What statement are the athletic directors in the NCAA sending if they send football players to campus to play football, but they don't send the kids to the campus to go to school? What kind of message does that send
Well, that's
out?
not going to happen, because what'll happen is they're going to start cutting the other sports. Volleyball, sorry, goodbye. Tennis, goodbye. Women's basketball, sorry, not cutting it. Every sport that's not football and then men's college basketball, Zach, I hate to say this, but every sport that's not men's college basketball and football is going to be looked at closely, because if the college is losing revenue all over the place, not just with football. People are going to take gap years. People aren't going to stay on campus. They're not going to pay for dorms and housing.
Yes.
I mean, it's really going to impact a lot of things.
Yes, but I think that's why I also think it's going to be conference by conference. I think this is really going to be conference by conference, and that's why I think the NCAA could fall apart right here. I don't think the NCAA has a say in this. If the SEC wants to play football, the SEC will play football regardless of what the NCAA says. Does anyone disagree?
I don't disagree with that.
I've always been a believer that if you take if you take half the SEC, take the 30 best teams that are always there and form their own league, college football will be better. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people love their rivalries, and I love it too, but I think I'd be fascinated if they took 30 teams that get all the big recruits from Terry picked them and had their own league. I think that'd be really cool.
You get the SEC, you get Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, like Ohio State, all Penn State, all those schools. I feel like at that point, what else is there? What are you missing?
Yeah, I also wanted to I wanted to read some of baseball's proposal too, because there's some incredible things that are going to be relevant to football. They can't take Ubers. They can't shower after games. They can't stand shoulder to shoulder for the anthem. They can't spit sunflower seeds at all. They can't throw the ball around the infield after an out. They can't shake hands. They can't leave the hotel for anything else other than a game. Good luck telling a college football player to do that, especially when the bars are packed at their school. They must take a couple tests a week, and they must take their temperatures daily before they leave the house. And I think that's going to translate to all sports.
Well, that's just not going to happen. Plain and simple. That just nobody's
going to happen in baseball. That's going to happen in baseball, Mark. That's something that they've actually agreed.
Every sport. They haven't agreed to that yet. That's the proposal. That's the owner's proposal.
Yeah,
they haven't.
No, it's the owner's proposal, but it also they chimed into the managers with that. Rogue.
Well, I talked about this earlier. In football, that it's just so much harder to manage, just because you got the bigger squads. In baseball, basketball, you have those 15, 20-man squads you can keep better track of. That's a lot different than, especially college ball. You got like almost 100 guys that are a part of the team. Like that's just so much of a drastic difference. But yeah, I think at what point, like, obviously those things aren't bad, but you have to wonder if they're going to start adding stipulations where like these athletes start becoming like prisoners, like, not obviously they're playing a sport, obviously that's fun, but like, I don't know.
They would almost have to basically isolate the college football players to be able to do it. Like, there's no way that they're going to be able to walk around campus, do all the normal stuff at school, and then go play football, because I promise you, someone with a big name will get coronavirus. They will test positive before a big game or something, and it's going to be, it's going to to be really interesting what happens then.
The NBA is already talking about doing something similar.
Yeah.
The NBA is already looking at facilities in Las Vegas and in Disney in Florida to completely isolate their players. One of them like in a giant area that they can like go around in there, like especially Disney. That was the proposal I read most recently in Orlando. But in which they're going to play the end of the season and then stay there throughout the playoffs. So that's what the reality we're living in. That's the reality we're going to see in a lot of sports.
Yes, and that's honestly, why I think that's why I say the NFL's in a better spot than college football. That's why.
Well, it's only because of time, and then the college. It's two discussions because there's time. The NFL football has time on its side, but the NFL versus college. The NFL is its own company with national TV contracts and doesn't rely as much on attendance. College football is in attendance and the tailgates and the revenue to the town and the revenue to the school is so much. It's so much more important and so much more reliant on just people being there. NFL's national TV contracts trump everything.
And Zach mentioned keeping the football players in a bubble, and I think it's like Zach mentioned before. I think the SEC is going to be fine with that, obviously, and I just think conferences like maybe the Pac-12 won't. Like, and
Yeah,
I just that's just something that, like you guys said,
well,
is
the
going to be
financial
something.
burden of doing that too is really hard, and I think the only conference that can really afford to do that. I mean, the big power, you only Power Fives are really going to be able to do that. And
That's fine.
I mean, Dave, what do you think's going to happen with your football season? Like, let's be honest. Like, you got it coming up. I mean,
Honestly, well, right now, I'm training as if it's gonna happen. I believe it's gonna happen. I mean, that's the best way to go about it. If I sit here and act like I don't think it's gonna happen, I feel like that leaves me less prepared if it does. So as of right now, I'm gonna expect it to happen, and I feel like athletes across the country are gonna have that same mindset. No one wants to sit here and say, "Oh, our season's gonna be canceled," you know. Like no one's gonna sit there and wallow in it. If they love the sport, they're gonna expect it to be open, and they're gonna work out and hope that they get to play this fall. You know?
Yeah, I think the good news is we're trending in the right direction. I think it's very clear that the data on this virus is different than what it was a month ago. I don't want to go too deep into it because I want to talk football, but basically, we thought the death rate was 3.5% a month and a half ago, and we shut down. We were worried hospitals would be overwhelmed. Not one hospital's been overwhelmed. I think that with this virus is a huge concern. We got to keep an eye on it, but it's also true that for people that are 24 and under and people playing college football, I'd understand if every athlete wants to play because the odds of you actually being affected by the virus are pretty low. I mean, obviously, we still have to consider people of all populations and demographics, but I think if as people learn more about this and get more optimistic, I'm hoping that it'll lead to more of a propensity for people to want to open up.
I wonder.
Yeah, I agree.
You just brought an idea to my head, Rug. I wonder if they do like something like where they'd give the players a form or like something like, oh, if you don't play this year, we're not going to revoke your scholarship, but like if you want to play, you know, like
Yeah,
this is
they
something
might
that we're
have to because I
doing.
mean it's a personal preference thing too. It depends on your situation. Do you want to risk yourself? I mean,
Mm.
it's a lot. It's just a lot to work out.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk all day about this and go on and on. There's one last question I want to talk about, and this is mainly for Dave because Dave has a little bit more insight. But when's the drop dead date that these college players have to be back on campus and getting ready for the season if the season wants to happen? When's the drop dead date? Because most people don't realize this, but most college football players in the Power Five are already back on campus getting ready. Not practice and stuff, but they're getting ready, and they're usually already back on campus. So, Dave,
I mean that depends on a lot of things, you know. Are they going to push the season back? Like how far do you want to push the season back? Like you could definitely push it back like a few, like 3-4 weeks and like a whole month, and I guess that would be the farthest I would say. I mean, usually like at least for D3 programs, you usually want to stay there over the summer, which I actually had planned to do this summer, which obviously going to happen because everything that's happened. But you're there throughout the summer, and then camp starts, you know, relatively end of summer and goes into the season. But I guess I would say the latest that you could start camp and start football activities would be like maybe late September, early early October, and that'd be pushing the season back, the start of the season back like a month. And I don't know if people
yeah,
would be more comfortable with pushing back farther than that. I don't know, like because I don't know, because that goes into the next season. You know, football is a sport where
yeah,
you need an off season. Like you,
yeah,
you can't just walk onto the field a day after playing your last season. That's not. It's you need an off season to get better, get stronger, learn the game a little bit more. So that's what it comes down to. How far are you willing to push the season back?
Next thing we want to talk about, we want to get into this new NFL proposal to give extra draft picks to teams that hire minority coaches. I'm not a fan of this. I think this puts the wrong motivation into hiring minority coaches. I don't think this is the answer I don't think this is the answer to answering this problem. I like this is just you're forcing it, and I understand there may be a problem here, but I'm not in agreement that this is how you
I think there's a little bit of a
fix it.
problem here as well. I mean, I think there's an obvious there's a lot of qualified African American coaches out there that didn't get hired this past offseason. Like Eric Benamy, the Chiefs OC. There's no reason
There's
he
no
shouldn't be
reason
getting
he
a
should be
job.
OC.
Like
Yeah.
over some college coaches that just got hired. There's no reason.
We're all in agreement on that, but do we know that that's happening? Are there a lot of examples like that?
There could be. The thing is, we don't know the owners. We don't know why this is the case. We just know it is the case that African American coaches aren't getting hired, and there are very qualified African American coaches that aren't being hired. Yeah, they're just qualified, and they're not getting the opportunity to coach a football team.
The proposal itself is just ridiculous.
No.
I understand. I understand you're not saying it's not. Just it's so ridiculous. I can't. I mean, I don't even understand what's going through their heads trying to do that. I mean, it's like opening Pandora's box. And if I hire a woman coach who's like 400 pounds, I get a first-round pick. If I hire a trans coach, can I get 2 first-rounders? I mean, we're opening up a box of worms here.
Like if I hire some honky donk from Alabama to step out and cover DeAndre Hopkins, am I getting a top 5 pick? Like
I need a pick for that. I mean, my God, I'm gonna get shit on. My team's gonna be awful.
Yeah. I think Anthony Lynn's comments the other day, like when this all came out, he said this was completely out of desperation of the league. He wasn't a fan of it, and I think the quote that really stuck out was he said, "I think sometimes you can do the wrong thing while thinking you're doing the right thing." He said that to CBS Radio. I think that's the best way to think it. They were probably sitting in a room, and in that room they thought, you know what, this is a great move. This will increase the diversity of the NFL. And then once this got leaked out, everyone was like, wait a second, this sounds ridiculous. And I think we've seen a very united front out of the response from the NFL saying, whoa, this may not be the best idea what you're wanting to say here.
Mm-hmm. That's a big thing to remember, that this is just a proposal, and it's obvious that a lot of people aren't fans of this. It doesn't matter who you are. Like, it's obvious that this isn't a very widely considered popular idea. So I feel like this is going to be something that's forgotten about in a couple weeks and never talked about again. But it's obviously something worth mentioning that the NFL even proposed this.
Yeah, it's just I want to be empathetic, but I also want to point out if Mike Tomlin got fired, he'd have a job in 30 seconds. Ron Rivera got fired, he had a job in 30 seconds. If Brian Flores got fired, he'd have a job in 30 seconds. I think we also have to just wonder what level of discrimination is happening, or is there any at all? I think it's just something that we need to learn more about. And I think this proposal is trying to do that, but it's the wrong way of going about it. I mean, it's really the most silly thing I've ever seen, to be honest. I can't even believe. I thought Barry McCockiner had taken over Jim Trotter's Twitter account and tweeted it out to rile people up.
Yeah, it's the worst possible solution to maybe a problem that doesn't even exist.
I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Rug. I'm going to allow him to go ahead and read our next segment, which will be our listener questions. Rug, you want to go ahead and give them away?
So as we do every week, we take some listener questions from the audience, and we got 3 this week. The first is from Mr. Jack Goff. Jack also, this is Jack from Pennsylvania, who contacted us a couple weeks ago. He's really proven to be a big fan. He had some choice words from me last time. This time he has some things to say about Zach. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. My name is Jack Goff. Ha 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 ha. And my question is, why did you hire Zach Grieber? Was it because he's an easy target? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that actually was our main reason for hiring Zach. We needed a punching bag in the group, and he fitted our needs perfectly.
Zach, what are your thoughts on Mark's response there?
I'll let him have that one. I did refer to him earlier in the show as a crime stopper when he's just a pointless security guard. So, what that one's.
Well, I think Zach offers a good balance of football knowledge, which he lacks, and comedy. He gives me a giggle every now and then just remembering he's in here. And I can never really complain having him in here. So yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Zach does the little things well. He's a good guy to have as part of the team. All right, next question is from Dom Miller, good friend of mine. Hey boys, big fan of the podcast. Keep up the great work. I was just wondering if you could have one of your hosts, his name is Rug, talk less. He has really shitty opinions. Best, Dom Miller. It's just a ridiculous question if you ask me, but I'll let you guys go ahead.
It's definitely been something we've considered. Me, Zach, and Mark, and now Jake and David. Rug does like to open his mouth a lot, and sometimes shit spews out of it. But I think he gives very insightful takes sometimes. So I think where he's at right now is a good mix, and we'll probably keep him there.
Me
Anyone else?
personally, I think Dom makes a really solid point, and everyone should be very thankful that Rug's Corner is not actually going to be a part of this episode. So you guys are welcome for that.
I want to go ahead and give a second to praise Rug. I think Rug's been doing a great job. He's definitely been the glue to this organization. I want to give him some public praise and say that I think he's been doing a good job. And I disagree with Don Miller here. I think Rug's takes have been well spoken. I think they're very interesting. I think he gives a lot of point of views that a lot of people get to hear on a daily basis.
Oh,
So,
how I
Rug,
thank
got an
you,
next
Zach.
question?
We have a few new guys to the team. I want to get their first impressions on Rug. I want to see what they think so far.
I don't have any comment on any of you all yet. I will keep posted. That will be a discussion for a later date.
Okay.
I'm very excited to hear firsthand what you guys have to say every week. That's
If nothing else, it stays interesting.
I want to take a second though and give Dom credit because Dom, one of my good friends, he knows nothing about football. Like he makes Zach look like a football savant. He probably can't even name 10 players, and he listens to every episode. So Dom, I just want to thank you for your continued support. And if you have any more questions, feel free to send them in. So our last question. All right, this is fun. It's good old Luke Schenkel. Everyone knows who that is. He's might be missing us. Might be missing us a little bit. This is for D3 baseball star Zach. Zach, can you rank the podcast members from most knowledgeable about football to least knowledgeable?
Oh, that's a cool question.
So if we're including former podcast members as well, we're gonna go ahead and at the bottom we're gonna put Luke Schenkel. I mean, he just didn't offer much opinion. He said the Dallas Cowboys draft was easily the worst.
Bust.
And he was serious about that.
Bust.
Yeah, it wasn't very knowledgeable. So we're gonna go ahead and throw him at the bottom. I don't know about David and Jake, so we're gonna go ahead and leave them out. And then about 20 yards ahead of Luke, there's me. And then about 5 yards ahead of me, there's Mark. And then you got Rug and Dave who just swing a bat at each other, sitting up there. And they're about 20 yards ahead of Mark.
I mean,
so
you didn't even know Dwayne Haskins' jersey number, so I'm gonna act like you didn't say that.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that's my take on that. But yeah, that's all I got for that.
Joe Theismann broke his leg in 1998. Oh man.
Yeah, that was wrong. That was wrong. I mean, especially since I just watched the Alex Smith documentary, I definitely should have known that one.
That wasn't your worst one. I think your worst one might have been that you thought John Elway was Steve Young, and that he played for the 49ers. That's just so piss poor. I don't even know. Ankit, I hope you heard that one. That's just fucking embarrassing.
Well,
that's
I knew he played for the Broncos. I just didn't know if he played for the 49ers at all. That's on me. That's on me. I'll wear that one. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to thank you guys for listening, and please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a review on your preferred listening platform. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your day.